Good evening, and welcome to Horror Historian. My name is Amanda, and tonight we will be discussing the 2005 Japanese found footage horror film, Noroi, The Curse. Now, based on that little information, you can probably guess I like this movie a lot. This movie was directed by Koji Shiragishi. He has done other movies that I've enjoyed, like Carved, The Slit-Mouthed Woman, and Sadako vs. Kayako. He wrote this movie with Naoyuki Yokota, and they have worked together a few times. The only stars of note are Marika Matsumoto and Ryo Kano. Marika plays a fictionalized version of herself, and she is known for J-dramas and voice acting. Ryo is a child actress that plays Kana, and she is most known for Dark Waters and voice acting in Howl's Moving Castle. She was 12 at the time of this movie's release and continues to act to this day. Trigger warnings for death of a child, discussions of infant deaths, mentions of abortions, stillbirths, and miscarriages. On April 12th, Masafumi Kobayashi killed his wife and set their house on fire, and disappeared sometime after midnight. This movie pieces together the events that lead to that horrific event. Kobayashi is a paranormal investigator that starts this movie investigating a woman's claims of hearing a crying baby next door. The next door neighbor is a woman with her son, and I'm going to say he looks about 8-ish years old, so he's probably not the one making those kinds of noises. I hope. When Kobayashi and his cameraman go to the neighbor, she is immediately very aggressive towards them. And I get it, two strange men show up with a camera and start asking questions. I would probably be a little testy too. But she just in general feels off. When they leave, you can see the little boy peeking out from between the windows, watching them. The men go through the footage from their visit and they capture the sound of an infant crying. It's really creepy even though it's so simple. They return sometime later to learn that the neighbor abruptly moved out. A piece of mail left behind reveals that her name is Ichi Junko. The neighbor that reported the strange happenings to Kobayashi is killed in a car accident with her son, and this does not feel like a coincidence. We then meet a very important young girl named Kana. Kana is one of several young children being featured on a variety program. They are being tested on their psychic abilities, and from the very beginning, Kana stands out above everybody else. The host has them draw what they believe is drawn on a card. Kana gets all but one of them right. The image at the time looked like an alien to me, but it's something else entirely, and it's one of the most impactful images of the movie. But we'll get to that when we get there. She was actually supposed to draw a math problem. The host shrugs it off as just being a very difficult picture to get right. The next task is to try and fill a cup of water. Kana is the only success. She really does go above and beyond, showing that her psychic abilities are really impressive. They analyze the water later on, and it seems to come from a lake. There's also a strand of hair that seems to have come from a newborn. You might notice that there's kind of a heavy theme of spooky baby stuff. Our next clip is a different variety program, one that never got to air. I'm guessing the decision was made to protect Marika's image. Two rather nerdy men are taking her to an abandoned temple. The vibes are off the second that they get out of the van. When they reach a clearing where all the trees have died, Marika seems to be very on edge, and she outright panics when she hears a voice. The episode is shown at a small viewing at what seems to be like a bar. Marika is talking about what she experienced when she is attacked by Hori. Honestly, the most memorable character of this movie, other than, to me, Kana. Kobayashi gets to view the uncut version of Marika's episode. In this cut, there is something standing among the dead trees, just lurking around unnoticed by those that are filming and Marika. They're asked to visit Marika's apartment, and she is displaying some very odd behavior, like drawing in her sleep. She isn't the only one that's having a weird time. Kana has been acting very strange. Kobayashi is invited to dinner and observes Kana talking to someone that no one else could see. Everyone becomes very concerned about her when she breaks a spoon during dinner. After that, Kana disappears. Considering his odd appearance in these overlapping cases, Kobayashi figures now is a good time to finally meet up with the very strange Hori. And to put it bluntly, he's a mess. There's aluminum foil everywhere inside of where he's living, and as an attempt to keep the ectoplasmic worms giving him messages at bay. To his credit, he seems very distressed over Kana's disappearance. But there is only one lead, and it comes from Marika's video of her sleeping. A voice says Kagutaba. The video had been mostly done to keep track of the way she was making loops with wires. This leads to Kobayashi contacting a local historian to learn more about a demon not too far from where they are. This is when it all starts coming together. Kagutaba is the name of a demon that used to be appeased by the town of Shimekage. The last ritual for the demon was performed in 1978, as the town was set to be flooded and turned into a dam. The ritual was recorded for cultural preservation. The ritual involved a Shinto priest and his daughter who wore a mask to represent her part as playing Kagutaba, a mask that looks a lot like what Kana drew during that program. Everything was going fine with the ritual until the daughter started acting off. Locals assumed that she had become possessed by Kagutaba. The demon must have known that he was going to be losing those that appeased him, and he needed a way out. It turns out that the priest's daughter is Junko, the creepy neighbor from way earlier. She was never the same after the ritual. She kept to herself as she went through nursing school. There were a lot of rumors where she settled down that she was taking stillborn and aborted fetuses from the hospital for unknown reasons. She has recently returned to her hometown near the lake that was once the town of Shimokage. First thing to know about this town is that there are a lot of dogs there. After revealing to Kobayashi that her neighbor and other people had hanged themselves at a park, Marika wants to do the ritual one last time to appease Kagutaba and hopefully get out of this mess. She, Kobayashi, and the cameraman get on a boat and do exactly that. Hori is panicking on the shore. When they finish the ritual and return to the shore, it seems like Marika has become possessed. She runs into the woods with Kobayashi's cameraman chasing after her. Hori and Kobayashi go into the woods. They end up at a creepy torii in the middle of the woods. The camera captures a ghost kana that is surrounded by some pretty admittedly poorly edited fetuses, but it was also 2005. So unfortunately, we can assume that Kana is dead, and Kagutaba is definitely not feeling appeased anytime soon. Marika and Hori are taken to the hospital, which is probably a good idea. That pretty much ends Marika's story. She isn't possessed, and we can assume that she lives a nice, normal, not haunted life afterwards. Kobayashi and his cameraman team up to go to Junko's house, and that's where they discover her hanged body. Kana's body is also found. Apparently, Junko had been attempting to feed the fetuses to Kana to try and make her an even stronger medium. There's a ritual where mediums would eat baby monkeys, so I guess the logic is human fetuses would be better. The only survivor in the house is the little boy. And with that, the Noroi documentary ends with Kobayashi adopting the young boy, and we then discover what happened on April 12th. A mysterious package is found containing videos from a camera that was present in Kobayashi's house. It tells us a much different story than what we had been told at the very beginning. Hori arrives late into the night in a panic to Kobayashi's house, and he tells him that the little boy he had adopted is Kagutaba. He incapacitates the boy by hitting him in the head with a rock, trying to keep him from terrorizing the world. We briefly see a ghost Kana lurking in the corner, and we can assume that she's trapped along with Kagutaba. Kobayashi's wife, Keiko, becomes possessed. She pours gasoline on herself and lights herself on fire. She seems to come into herself at that point and starts screaming. Kobayashi seemingly survives, escaping the house. He is also assumed dead because he was pretty injured. Since the little boy was never found, I personally assume Kobayashi is the new Junko, just an adult taking care of the demon. Hori is found inside a metal pipe several days later, deceased. I assume he was trying to escape the ectoplasmic worms. This is one of those movies that expertly weaves the purpose of found footage into the story. Kobayashi wants to document his experiences in the paranormal, and Japanese variety shows are filming all kinds of interesting programs. Some of them obviously don't make it to air. I like watching some of the paranormal variety programs, but it's been a while since I last watched them. Even though it's been almost 20 years since the movie came out, I really don't think it aged that badly. The special effects with the fetuses could have used a little work, but honestly, this all could have been a lot worse. The story's a solid one that really comes together in the third act. Marika, Kana, Hori, and Junko are the threads that Kobayashi is following. I like how it subverts what we were told in the first scene. You can't help but wonder what happened to Kobayashi and the little boy. Thankfully, they didn't cheapen the movie with a sequel. There aren't any real jump scares, it's just this growing sense of unease and the knowledge that something horrible is going to be happening to these people. The first real scare was the baby crying, and that audio capture was really creepy. The mask, while a little goofy when Kana draws it, is really one of the standout images of the movie, which is why it was used in a lot of the marketing. I also found Kobayashi and Hori to be really interesting characters, especially when they were working together. They're both into the paranormal, but with drastically different approaches. Hori has a connection to the other world and has driven him mad with what he has seen. Kobayashi takes a much more observational approach. I love this movie. Go see it. Get your friends to see it as well. Would I survive? So, I don't have kids, and I don't want kids. So I think I might be safe-ish. I also don't go ghost hunting, but I do have a problem minding my own business. It's kind of a toss-up, to be honest.